Hello, this is your video instructions on the marginal annotation critical thinking notes. Well, let's take a look at the words marginal annotations. Marginal, if you shrink that, it's the word margins. So since we're talking about reading, margins are those things on the side, in there, underneath, and across the top. It's the blank space that's around the print. Those are your margins. Annotations, if we shorten that down to the base word, notes. So marginal annotations are notes that are taken in the margins of a book, which is great if you own the book. So for example, this copy of Speak, I own. And so what I have done is I've written in the margins. Let me see if I can find a better page for you. Let's see. Here's one that's pretty good. You can kind of see I've written all over, circled things, written stuff in between, okay? Because it's my copy, so I can do that. But if it's a school copy, if it's a library copy, if you're borrowing it from a friend, or if it's something you're reading like an ebook, you don't have margins. Sorry for yawning. So instead of writing in the margins, what we do is we use the most impressive of inventions, the Post-it note, okay? So this is a way for you to demonstrate your critical thinking about a text and to give some evidence that's going to support your thinking. So what you want to do is you want to have, I like to do multiple colors of sticky notes. So what I like to do is I like to assign one of the categories to one of the colors. So I might say Q question, that's going to be yellow. And then for my inferences and my insights, that would be pink. And then for making connections, I'm going to do something with the blue. And then the BHH, which I will get to, I'm going to do green. Now, if you remember from your materials list at the beginning of this grading period, in that materials list, I asked you to have Post-it notes, possibly multiple colors. And this is the reason why, because of this type of annotation that we do. Now, if you don't have multiple colors of Post-it notes, you're like, Goucher, I've only got white. That's fine. That'll work. Or I've only got yellow. That's fine. But that's why I asked for multiple colors. So if you have it, awesome. If you don't, you could do different colors of pen as you're taking your notes. So you could do a green and a red, a black, sorry, and a purple, something like that, okay? So what you're going to do is as you are reading, you will come across things that make you think. That as you're reading, you should be kind of really focused and noticing those thoughts that pop up in your head or those questions that may come up, okay? So you might be reading a text, for example, The Most Dangerous Game, if you remember that. And I had come across a question which was on page 7. And I actually wrote it where you can't see it. There it is. I wrote it right on there because it was. So when he says the Cape buffalo is not the most dangerous big game, here in my preserve on this island, I hunt a more dangerous game. And the question I wrote was, is this the theme? Is it because it's tied to the title in some way? It's very similar. The title is The Most Dangerous Game. This says, I hunt more dangerous game. So I was like, is that connected to the title in some way? So that would be an example of how you could do it on your own. But if you have just sticky notes, you can do the same thing. Tied to the title, connection to theme. And that's what I wrote. So then I would just take this sticky note and I'm put it right there. So that way, as I'm reading through, I'm going to have sticky notes throughout this. And it's going to have it's going to have questions and inferences and any connections and all of that. So then when I would get done with this, I would take all of my sticky notes and get me a blank 2-page spread in my reader's notebook like this. And I would just take my sticky notes in order of where I found them and just stick them right in. Okay. So what are some things you should look for? I've listed them here to give you an idea. This is not an exhaustive list. That means it's not everything. It's just a few things. If you come up with other things, for example, you found an epiphany. Now that you know what an epiphany is from the TQE, you can include that. Let's say you see something that gets repeated again and again. You could do that signpost AA and write that out. So don't feel like you only can do this. These are just things, suggestions to help get you thinking and looking for things, okay? So, question, that's, you'd see a cue, write a question, okay? Another one would be an inference or an insight. An inference is where you are making a logical guess based on the clues in the text. It's kind of like a prediction almost. Like you don't know for sure, but based on what you've read, you're pretty sure this is what's coming. Okay, that's an inference. An insight is your thinking. It's kind of like maybe an aha moment where in your mind you're like, oh, wait a minute. I understand this because of my experience, because I've read about it before, I've learned about it in another class. You've got some knowledge that maybe not everybody has. That's an insight. When you understand something and you pull that out of your memory and go, oh, did you know this? That's an insight, okay? The C, connection. So that's where I want you to try to make connections to the text, either on a personal level. So in the Most Dangerous Game, if you are a hunter, you kind of connect with Rainsford and sort of Zaroff because you've hunted. Maybe you've not hunted man, but you've hunted beasts. So you understand that process. That is a personal connection. You might have a literary connection. That means you're going to take something from the story and it reminds you of another story, or it reminds you of a movie, or it reminds you of a podcast, or it reminds you of a song. Okay. Literary isn't just books. Okay. Literary is anything that's written. Podcasts are written, scripts are written, song lyrics are written. So when we're talking about a literary connection, it can be anything that's kind of written. And then a historical connection, that is kind of the much bigger picture. So when you're thinking about world history, American history, maybe it's connecting to current events that are happening right now. It's outside of our little circle and kind of going out into the world, making those connections with society at whole. Okay, so that's what a connection is. The last one, the BHH, that is just, again, a different kind of way of thinking. It's a different strategy. So B stands for book. What's the book about? Who's telling the story? What does the author want me to know? That really just kind of follows like the plot line, if you think about it. The first H, what's in your head? So what surprised you? What does the author think I already know? So that's pulling some of that insight, maybe what you already know. What did I notice? And what changed, challenged, or confirmed my thinking? I love this question and I ask it a lot. So after reading this, how has your thinking been affected? Did it change some thinking you had? Did it challenge? It made you think about a belief or something you hold true. And you're like, well, wait a minute. Is that still true? Yes, it is. Even though I read this, I'm still going to hold true to that. Or did it confirm your thinking? I already believed this. And after reading this, I believe even more strongly. Okay. And then this third one, the last H, heart. So that's about your feelings. That's your emotions. So how does this story connect to me? Personal connection. What did I learn about myself? In reading this story and kind of paying attention to your reactions, what does that teach you about you? And how will this story help me to be better? What do I mean by better? I don't know. Is it going to make you a better person, a better human being, a better friend, a better son, a better sibling, a better student, a better teammate, a better athlete, a better thinker, a better reader, a better writer? Just better in some ways. Okay. So that is what we do with the marginal annotations. Now, when we're doing this in a book, because you're putting it right on the page like that, you don't necessarily have to put page numbers, although when you take it out and put it in here, it might be helpful if you add the page numbers, so you can always go back and find them later if you need to. Okay? So that is the marginal annotation critical thinking strategy. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know. But I am I'm curious to see if this is the strategy for you.